Okay, all, I want to go ahead and get started with some housekeeping stuff. I want to thank everyone for joining us and taking their time out of their day. Today, we're going to be jumping into a 2025 kickoff from some of our vast executive team. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few housekeeping things with you guys. On the top right, you will see a doc section. This has all relevant documents to this session. Please check those out. They will be available to you during this presentation and post-presentation as well. Following this session, we will be sending out the recording, but you can also access it within the partner portal. Keep an eye out on your inbox tomorrow for the links for this on-demand session and the slide deck as well. Lastly, if you have any questions during this session, please put those in the Q&A section. You will see the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Your questions will appear once it has been approved. If you'd like to submit your questions anonymously, you can do that by checking the hide the name box at the bottom of the panel. And I've kind of highlighted that here for you guys to see where to access that. We want this session to be as interactive as possible, so feel free to ask any questions or share your thoughts throughout. Today, we are excited to kick off the new year with our channel partner ecosystem. And I'm excited to share with you the team that's joining us today. I will be joined by our Chief Revenue Officer, Rick Scurfield, Phil Menez, our VP of GTM Execution, and Ross Cooper-Smith, our Partner Enablement Manager. And we are excited to look back on 2024 and share an update going into the new year. This is going to be a gem-packed session, so let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce Rick Scurfield. Rick, how are you doing today? Welcome to the stage.
Hey, Christina. Thanks for having me, and great to be on this call. Actually, great to get all of the worldwide partners together. So thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for joining us. A lot of things to go through today. So let me just start off, first of all, with some opening remarks. Always want to say thank you. Thank you to our partners. Thank you to everyone who participated in what I'm going to talk about as a phenomenal year that we just ended, and even more of a year that we have looking forward to with all of the momentum that we're coming out of. Before I get started into all of that, one of the things I do want to mention is, as with any hugely growing company at the stage that Vast is in, you have changes. And we had one of those changes, and part of the reason I'm hosting this call today, not only because I wanted to, but because we had a change where Greg Michon, who was our worldwide leader for the partner organization, for the channel organization, has decided to take a new position outside of the company. Greg did a fantastic job. I think it just became time for him to, take his talents and move somewhere else. We really wish Greg the best. He was a phenomenal person. I have the best, highest level of respect for him. But I just wanted to let you know we're now in the process of looking for how do we move forward as Vast in a overall ecosystem of partnerships, and I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. One of the things that that we talked about, we just finished our sales kickoff 2 weeks ago. We just had a phenomenal year. Overall company, we grew 3.6x, so 267% growth rate. And that's coming off a big number. So we almost hit $1 billion in bookings. We're very close. And the really good thing is that we had a breadth of business across different segments. You talked about the cloud service providers, the hedge funds, where we've seen success in historically in life sciences, research institutes. We're now starting to see big success in the enterprise. Across workloads. So we're doing data protection workloads. We're seeing a lot of Gen AI type workloads where we're supporting learning modules or learning companies, and also just looking across the spectrum of other types of workloads that are emerging that have AI as the backbone for those applications. Incredibly successful, and with that success, leads to a CEO and a CFO that says, great, you had a phenomenal year of success, and now how do we take that forward? And so we have big growth goals for this year, and that's going to create the need for a very robust partnership organization. And I'm specifically saying partnership organization because we're looking at this very broadly. The market has changed. And how do we actually look at partnerships? Because we know that some of our partners are also some of your partners. And so, for example, we have a very successful OEM business with HPE. We have an OEM business with Supermicro. There's other ones coming around. And so how do we actually now leverage that into a two-tier model, into our OEMs with the channel? How do we look more broadly at tech alliances? How do we look more broadly around our GSI community, where we're really looking at how do we take a look at all of the partnerships and all of the access and all of the avenues that the customers want to utilize whenever they're purchasing their technologies? How do we actually build that into a ecosystem of partnerships that work well together? And so that's kind of the things that we're looking at. So first thing that always comes up is, why did we have that success? And so if I take a look at the next slide, and I'm a newbie at this, how do I advance to the next slide? There we go. Somebody advanced for me to the next slide. Thank you very much. So we actually, what's interesting is we planned for this. We're now seeing the fruits of 8 years of hard work. When you take a look at what happened, 8 years ago, where just taking that idea of how to become a platform for the data, the AI era. And, the founders, Renan being an incredible visionary of saying, how do we create something very different from scratch that we know is going to require a technology that has capacity capabilities that no other company has, performance characteristics, and all of this together to create a data store platform. But not only that, but then start looking at how do we actually think about how data is going to be utilized in the future when you have this AI type workloads. And so launched the company in 2019. I put up here, we had a fortuitous flirtation with IBM Cloud. And the reason we say that is because as any growing company and startup company does their thing, we actually were looking to be a platform for IBM Cloud. One of the requirements that they had for us was to be multi-tenant. And so we went out and we built that capability into the product. And it's fortuitous flirtation is because that actually we never closed that deal. But having that requirement to pursue that opportunity with multi-tenancy then springboarded us to the position that we have now in the market, where we actually are the only product technology at scale that can do multi-tenancy. What did that do? That then took us into how do we win some of the large language models? How do we take a look at why are some of the companies that utilize exabyte scale data capacity with performance around that? Why are they using that? And that becomes one of the decision points for VAST technology. Then in 2022, what we're seeing today really sparked the revolution of what all of that work that we did, all of the capabilities that we had in the technology stack, all of that now came together when the AI, the flood of AI activity happened. And that now has resulted in 800% growth that we've seen in the last 2 years. So we are seeing this exponential growth happen right now, not just in business that we've closed, but in the pipeline that we've been able to develop. We've been doing that on our own. We've been doing that in collaboration with all of our different partners. We've been doing that with working collectively across the ecosystem. So if you go to the next slide, how did our partners do in helping us with that growth rate? Well, just last year, and last quarter, last year, 64 new logos won. So we have our channel partners have been sourcing a lot of that win for us. We actually had our largest partner win was $56 million. And these are numbers that are incredible when you think about the sizes of the deals, the opportunities that we go after, the stage of the company that VAST is in, and you take a look at the technology. what we like to say is now we're getting to that point where enterprises are spending big, they are trusting their environments too vast, and that is now leading to other companies coming along and saying, hey, we have an exabyte, we have 2 exabytes, and we really want to talk to you about what is your capabilities. So that credibility story is building every single day. 24% of our deals were won that were partner led. And we had 11 deals last year sold through partners. So, normally a startup company and a growth company that we are, and a scale up company in the stage that we're in right now, a lot of those deals, those large deals, the customer wants that direct relationship. What we're seeing now is a pickup in the participation of our partners in those large deals as well. So you see that those 11 deals greater than $10 million going through our partners. 87 deals greater than $1 million, and then ultimately, 86% of the transactions were done in some capacity through the partner organization. So when I say we almost hit $1 billion, and you see 86% of those transactions going through the partners, you can see how incredibly important the partnership community is for us. So next slide. With all of that, I want to now turn it over to Phil. So Phil, you're on, and I want to thank everybody again, and looking forward to the Q&A session at the end. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. So folks, great to be back with the channel community. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, you might have just seen an announcement, but I am taking a new role this year. My title will be, sounds fancy, Vice President of Go-to-Market Execution. So that means after 5 years of working both with channel and OEM partners at Vast, I'm stepping outside of a direct responsibility for our partner relationships and really looking at how we drive go-to-market execution as a whole. And obviously, I'm going to have a very big focus on making sure our partners are a big part of that. And we integrate the value that our partner brings into our execution strategy. So I'm excited about that. And some of the key focuses that I'll be having in my new role are building out sales plays. So giving you guys more complete content on how you can go find, compete, win, and deliver opportunities in our different sales plays, as well as continuing to refine our messaging. So we're going to go through the Vast Data Platform story as I like to tell it now. But as we layer on more features and functionality to the Vast Data Platform, obviously the story can get more complicated, and we want to make sure that we continue to make it simple and make our messaging really potent, something that you guys can consume. I know you have a lot of different products you're responsible for. So that's going to be some of my key missions this year, but I'm looking forward to spending more time with the channel maybe than I have over the last couple of years as I focused on building out our OEM business. So happy to be here. Okay, let's get into the story. So usually when I've done at this point many different trainings across the channel, OEM, talked to a ton of different customers with our partners. And the question in the beginning of these conversations is always the same, like, how do you compare yourself to company XYZ? And generally they're storage companies. Now we're getting into the realm where people are asking us, how do you compare to other companies like maybe a Databricks or a Snowflake? But generally the conversation is like, how do you compare to this storage company XYZ? And it sounds a little cocky, but I would confidently say that we do not compare to those companies. We have a very different approach, and we've really built what I consider a data modernization platform. So what does that mean? It means that I can take data from all sorts of different sources, right? Whether it's a legacy file, object storage platform, now data warehouse, potentially a streaming platform, whatever data source that is, and I move it to the Vast Data Platform, it immediately becomes AI ready. It becomes big data ready. It becomes cloud ready. It becomes container ready. It becomes collaboration ready. It is taggable. It's queryable. It is indestructible, it is space optimized, and it is supercharged for performance. All of those things happen the minute that I take data from any source and move it over to the vast data platform. So we've been talking in the storage world for a long time about modernizing your data center, moving things to all flash because of the operational benefits. But we're now in an entirely new era, and we need to help customers modernize their data. So if you said, hey, Phil, you've got 30 seconds, go explain to a customer why I've asked for someone else, that's probably a version of what you'd get. But obviously we want to build on that and make it feel more real, right? And as I've looked and spent a lot of time, trying to understand AI from the lens of someone who spent their career selling IT infrastructure, I thought it was really helpful to try to figure out like a personal example of AI, how it works, and what we could use it for. And this is, if you're guessing at this point, this is an MRI image of a human knee. And I had a very, personal experience where I thought AI could have been very impactful in my life. In college, I was a lacrosse player, and I had a major knee injury my freshman year. And my knee went in the direction that a human knee is not supposed to go into, so I knew I had a real problem. And obviously, you get some early assessment on the field, and they're like, yes, you've seriously damaged your knee. Then next step is like, okay, let's go get an MRI and see what happened. And I got my MRI, and when you get an MRI, they give you a little report that the radiologist makes, and you go bring that to your surgeon and all the different sports doctors that are going to help you put your knee back together. And I got my report, and we were going to see the doctor, and I found something really interesting in that report. And what it said was, there's no evidence of ligament damage in your knee. And that was very curious to me, because it was pretty clear that my knee was doing some things that it's not supposed to. And I brought that report to the doctor, and I asked him why it said that. And he said, his actual quote was, this person couldn't read the Times, and he threw the report in the trash. But what he told me was that normally people get, minor tears in ligaments, and, radiologists are looking for the symptoms of a minor tear. It's very easy to identify because it shows up as a fuzzy ligament. And my image actually had a couple ligaments that were snapped all the way through, and they kind of recede. So they were not in the picture. And the point is that people are looking at things over and over again all the time, and they have bias, and they get tired, and they went out the night before, they got into an argument earlier that day, whatever it is. But when you think about something looking at images all day long, looking for patterns and irregularity, like that's such an opportunity for AI. AI would not miss that, right? It would be a thorough examination every time without bias, and say, hey, there's 2 clean tears here. These ligaments, are fully severed, and the other 2 were intact, right? So now you start to think about, okay, example, I think everyone probably has at some point in their life gotten an X-ray, an MRI, and you can understand like a doctor looking around the efficiency. So now the real question is, what would it take to build out an AI application that can diagnose knee injuries from an MRI? Step one, right? And this, by the way, works for anything, right? So I encourage you to start to think about some different use cases, whether it's, looking at the X-ray machine at TSA to speed up security lines, or looking at whatever audio, video, like all the different unstructured data we can collect. But in this case, we're looking at MRIs. Step one, I've got to collect a ton, right? You want to give that AI application essentially many different unlimited lifetimes worth of experience of looking at different injuries of all sorts of different kinds and severities. And I got to collect all of those, right? And depending on the use case, typically medical imaging is speaking a Windows file language, so that's SMB, but these could be coming in from all sorts of different sources again. So you want to be able to collect a variety of sources of data. I got to collect a ton of it, right? Because if I want to train accurately for all sorts of instances, I've got to feed it all that experience, which means a lot of data. The next thing I need to do is refine and prep that data for training. You can't just take, raw images, feed them into GPUs and say, okay, tell me what you've got. There's an entire data prep phase that you have to go through to get data ready for AI training, right? Then at that point, I can train, right? And I think everyone knows GPUs are data hungry. They need a lot of performance. So I've got to feed that data up into the GPUs for training. At that point, now I've got my model, and the whole point is I want to deploy it, give it access to new MRI images, they come in. I want to be able to continue to iterate based on feedback and update and deliver that model, right? So you have to go through all of these different phases of the AI pipeline in order to build an application like that, right? And the opportunity that we have is, if I look at how you would need to do that in a world without VAST, customers are going to have to buy or integrate together, potentially, if they're trying to leverage some interesting things, all of these different products across their different data center, right? So all the way here on the left, you've got file and object, which you're going to see most enterprises have a multitude of different style file and object platforms, containing all sorts of different data. You're going to have traditional scale out NAS. You could have backup stuff in here. You could have object. You could now have high performance object, all sorts of different things just in the first bucket. Then we do see a lot of customers, early in the AI journey, they're like, hey, I got to buy some GPUs. They bought some, whatever fast storage just to attach to GPUs, and thinking about, like, I need dedicated storage just for training if that's something I'm going to do. Then, you have kind of traditional big data environments. Customers have separate environments for streaming versus batch big data. Those are all different worlds. If I have a data warehouse, maybe where I want to collect all the different results of those inferencing on MRI images, I might leverage something in the cloud like a Snowflake or a Databricks. And then if I want to be able to automate and deploy something like serverless functions, then now I'm leveraging something like Amazon and AWS, right? And we all know that customers are always wary of data migrations. And my message is, don't create a world where you're going to be migrating data between different platforms as part of your everyday business for the rest of your life. So you really need to look at this from a very different approach. And kind of breaking character from that story, as a partner of VAST, the opportunity here is we have so many different areas that we can attack any one of these customers' environments as a place to start, right? So you can make a very strong case, like just refreshing a customer's Isilon or whatever file or object platform is the smartest first step in their AI journey. But if they're looking at building out training with GPUs, we can easily start there. If it's a big data modernization, we can start there. If there's, hey, I want to bring my cloud data warehouse back on-prem because I'm spending too much money, we can start there. And we have unique, strong differentiation in each one of these different categories in a way where it's not like we can do all these things. We do all of these things very well, and we can win standalone campaigns. But when you show the customer and zoom out to that bigger picture, then it's just that much more powerful. A quick kind of primer. When we look at the cloud is really the only place that you can get all the different services that VAST can bring. I saw an article the other day where someone had kind of did a full count. I think it was 26 different AWS services you can get just on the VAST data platform alone. But the reality is, when you look at the cloud, it does have kind of everything you would need for that AI pipeline, but it's not just like one thing that you buy and they piece it together. It's all these different services that our customers need to put together and maintain. They're going to leverage, a ton of advanced consulting. And that's why we see most customers be able to successfully put an AI pilot in the cloud, but scaling to production is a whole other thing. So while all the stuff you need is in the cloud, don't think of the cloud as this like magic easy button, because it's equally as complex and more expensive than that previous picture that I showed. So when you look at that world with a VAST data platform, right, we've got all these different portions now of the VAST data platform. So the VAST data store is a multi-protocol data store. So I can collect all those MRI images or whatever different protocol. Am I collecting images off of a surveillance camera, a weather satellite, right? A automobile sending things home, whatever protocol you want to speak, we can collect in. We can also leverage something like GPU Direct. So I can stream that data up into GPUs as efficiently as possible without needing to change or transform that data from the VAST data platform. Then we have the VAST database. The VAST database has Spark plugins. So that's kind of the tool of choice when we're looking at data prep. So I can plug in directly without moving my data right into the VAST database. then I can leverage the engine. And this is where we get really cool, where I can say, hey, I'm creating a workflow for you that every time someone stores a new MRI image, I want you to execute the inference module that we've just designed on that MRI image. Then what I'd like to do is take the results of that inference and stick it in the database. And now it's perfectly tied to the image, as well as all the context around it that says, based on this image, now I have all the data that says it came from a right human knee. The person was 19 years old. It was a male. They tore their MCL and their PCL. And now if I want to say, hey, give me all the images that we have done inference on that have torn PCLs, I can go pull that automatically from a database. There's only one company on the planet that's building a product designed to support that entire pipeline. And it's important to understand a lot of your customers might not, again, leverage building their own models, but even just that execution part is super important. Bringing the database to bear, which now we're building into a vector database, gives you that entire end-to-end pipeline. And the data space allows me to leverage that, both extending to the cloud, extending to the edge where I might be collecting data to an on-prem data center. So it doesn't matter where the data is, it feels like it's everywhere I can collaborate on that data. Also, what's really important is that now we look at this end-to-end pipeline where data is kind of flowing through the pipeline, but it's not moving. It's really just leveraging different parts of the applications, different types of compute, depending on what phase I'm at in the pipeline. But it's so critical for our customers to have the right security as well as auditability of what happens. Think about training an application that's designed for medical use. What happens if there's a misdiagnosis? I need to be able to show how I trained my model, who had access to it, did I have bias, was the model compromised? Like all of those things I need to be able to deliver. We know there's going to be more and more regulations built out around AI. I want to be able to handle all of those things as well as having security, right? You think about the value of some of these different data sets now that they can be designed to do all sorts of interesting things. The value of that data increasing with AI only means that the threats for extracting that data, compromising that data will only grow. So we look at the whole vast data platform, right? And again, if you're like, okay, tell me what you really do, this is a great slide to leverage from vast data. These are the key pillars of the platform. So we've got the data store as a very high level, right? This is essentially an infinitely scalable. At this point, we have customers approaching exabyte scale with the vast data platform, several customers with hundreds of petabytes, but we've also got customers starting all the way down with as little as 100 terabytes on the vast data store, right? It is efficient beyond belief in terms of both the data reduction we have as well as the data protection scheme. Again, performance scales essentially forever. So whatever performance profile I need, I can also very flexibly kind of target that performance at a specific application, share it across many different applications, and it's just really easy to manage. So there is a lot to be said about modernizing data centers with our data store, but that's ultimately the beginning. We have the database, which is essentially a built-in data warehouse right on top of our data store. And I leverage this and look at it from a couple different perspectives. There's one perspective, which is customers with a lot of data generally don't have a very good idea of what data they actually have, who's accessing it, how it's being used, what potential they have for unlocking value. The vast database gives you a capability to get a structured view into your unstructured data. So I can actually leverage traditional SQL queries to say, give me all the files that look like this, right? If you normally had to do that, you'd be crawling a file system. It can take months. We've seen customers leverage external catalog tools that take 18 or 36 months to scan and catalog all of their data. And those are always kind of dragging behind. So having that integrated capability to get a clear view of my data through a structured lens, invaluable for our customers. But that's kind of just the first easy use case. Now we have customers leveraging the database for all sorts of interesting things. And really one of the key trade-offs we broke in here, we just had a cool announcement this week. We're now able to collect real-time streaming data from Kafka, but we can also take out kind of traditional data lake and data warehouse architecture. So customers have, just within big data, all these different silos between real-time streaming, data warehouse, and data lakes. We now, between the database and the data store, can consolidate all those different types of analytics workloads onto a common platform, as well as allowing you to leverage a combination of AI and big data techniques to understand the value of that data. And then look out at GTC. We're going to have some really cool announcements around the engine. We're building this thing with NVIDIA called the Insight Engine, which is a collaboration of some NVIDIA software tools based on our engine. But essentially the engine, really simply, we call it triggers and functions. It means based on the behavior that we're seeing from your data. And again, that example, when you receive an image of an MRI, launch this image. But you think about a customer who is going to have all sorts of different types of data in their environment, and you want to be able to execute the right module based on your data. So if a PDF comes in, do this, right? Now all of a sudden all my PDFs are available through AI. If an image comes in, do this. If a video comes in, do this. If audio comes in, do this, right? You think about all the different things that they're going to want to execute on. How do I make sure my data is available to AI in real time? Well, the engine can automatically leverage the different modules, and the NIMs is a key thing. If you're following what's going on with NVIDIA, how do I execute the right NIM at the right time? We can do that for you with the engine. And again, the data space is about extending and having that data all over the place. So, we know a lot of customers are leveraging the cloud for all sorts of different applications. And now what they've seen is, hey, storage in the cloud is very expensive, but I want to be able to leverage the cloud for certain capabilities. Well, with the vast data space, now I can essentially have, let's say, 20 petabytes on-prem, and I want to be able to leverage that for something in the cloud. Well, we can just persist the data in the cloud that needs to be in the cloud. So you think, okay, maybe I have 500 terabytes of data in the cloud, but as far as the cloud applications are concerned, all 20 petabytes are local. So that's really important now as customers look to really fine tune that hybrid cloud strategy. Also exciting this year, Gartner named VAST as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, right? And I think when you take away here is that customers, again, have all sorts of interesting requirements they're planning for, whether they plan to build models or just bring them in for inference use cases. They now have this variety of different requirements that their storage and data infrastructure needs to be capable of. And when you look at, okay, very simply, who in the world is competing and delivering AI solutions at scale for people that are building models, the service providers that are supporting those model builders, but also has all of the enterprise features that customers need to be able to, again, leverage their traditional workloads and support things like inference in the data center. There's literally one organization that can do that. I've been around a lot of these different competitive opportunities in AI. There's only a few companies that are actually supporting AI training at scale, and none of them besides VAST are in the leader Gartner Magic Quadrant. If you want to talk more about that, I'm happy to, but it's an excellent way if you're competing in the world with vast data to say, okay, who has all the enterprise features needed to support traditional enterprise file and object workloads, and who's demonstrated that they can support AI training at scale. There's one organization on the planet that can do that, and luckily you guys are partners with them. A couple other things I'll bring up around AI, because I do think it's important, right, to understand that there are all of these different markets around AI, and they're not the same, right? And what's important to customers in these environments is not the same. So when you really look at where the money's been spent and made, right? Obviously, today everyone's, I'm sure, looking towards NVIDIA's earnings to see what's going to happen and how much of the global economy is based on NVIDIA's earnings. A lot of that spend so far and the amazing growth of NVIDIA has been from the model builders, right? And you look at like what's happened with DeepSeek. It's like, okay, what's that mean? Can someone build a model with a lot less? That's an entirely different conversation. But that whole ecosystem is all built around people that are building models, right? You think about the OpenAIs of the world, the XAIs of the world, the Metas of the world. They're building these models that, again, can be tailored and used by enterprises. Then you've got a whole service writer community. So if you've seen, the announcement made around Project Stargate, right? There's a term that got dubbed in there, neoclouds, right? These AI CSPs, a lot of them are supporting that model builder community. So it's part of that same ecosystem, right? And obviously they look at things from a different lens. Model builders care about what it takes to build the model. CSPs care about how can they, support and also make money off these model builders. And really only now are we getting to the point where we have some excellent enterprise AI use cases. I've been at Bass for 5 years. We've been telling customers like, you got to get your data AI ready. And 5 years ago, we got poo-pooed a lot. Over the last couple of years, people have started to realize like, hey, I definitely want to get AI ready, but I'm struggling to see the use cases, how I would really deploy this. And now, when we look at the announcements we're going to make with NVIDIA at GTC, all the different things that they're building around NIMs, like we're starting to eventually start to see these early enterprise AI use cases. And again, it's a whole different set of problems that those customers are trying to solve versus the model builders. So while VAST has done well with the model builders, NVIDIA has done well with the model builders, I would imagine that a lot of you on this call have been like, that's cool, but like I don't have those as my customer, right? Within VAST, there's a lot of sellers that don't have model builders as their customers, but now we have this very interesting opportunity with AI, and there's also going to be a whole new slew of service writers that stand up to support not just the model builders, but also these enterprise customers as well. So when we look at some of the different things, and this is just some highlights of the different value across the board. When we look at the model builders, right, speed's important, but something that's so underrated when you're looking at building these massive GPU clusters is that this stuff just works, right? That you can deploy it in a timely fashion. We've seen customers that made choices for other traditional high performance compute storage products, and they can never get them up, right? Or it takes them months and months to get them up, that they're burning money on GPUs. So it's just important. Resilience and the reliability of a product cannot be understated. It's something that a lot of people quantify. Our architecture is designed to do this, but what I can tell you is the VAST architecture measured in the field is exceeding what those other people are claiming their architecture is capable of, right? And the point here is no one cares how fast your storage is when it's down. When we look at the CSPs, what we've been able to bring to them, and a lot of times they'll come to VAST and say, hey, we're building out, a GPU cluster, this many thousand GPUs. We need storage. It has to be this fast. And a lot of times our approach is like, hey, well, have you thought about these other things? And the reality is a lot of times those initial RFPs are based on performance and they're not thinking about the other features. And when we really start to dig into, okay, what are the offerings that you want to provide? How are you going to make money as a service writer? Delivering all these different features gives them not only capability just to make their customer successful, but all these different additional revenue streams that they can add on to the same terabyte of storage that they're buying. And then finally, if you have a VAST customer, you know that our support team is second to none, right? We just released our NPS score for the first time ever of 84, which to me, like, okay, if I'm in high school, I get an 84, that's a B. And NPS, that is world class. And every customer, whether it's Gartner peer review or the ones that did our NPS, all talk about the level of support, right? And I think a lot of folks have seen, companies that start with great support, they scale, they integrate, they become massive. Support just falls off. And when you think about customers, how important it is for them to get enterprise AI right, having a customer success team that's maniacal about making their experience as best as possible is really valuable and something that we don't want to understate. Okay, so I talk a lot about AI. It's hard not to, right? There's just so much going on building up to GTC. Again, so much of the success at VAST is being fueled by being able to take advantage of that early wave of AI spend. but that's not all we do, right? And we're definitely not forgetting about all the different opportunities. And again, what I will be passionate about this year is building out more refined sales plays in these other areas and more refined messaging, and working with our team to deliver that to you as training. But there are some different vertical plays for us that are successful. We do see AI again getting laced into these, so it's hard to dissociate these conversations, because again, wherever we're at, we always want to lace that future forward. But life sciences, genomics, drug discovery, biotech, even just traditional, research in the higher ed is still a great space for us. In finance, the hedge funds, again, early in AI, but we're really expanding our reach into banking and other financial services customers. Media and entertainment, right, has been solid for us for a long time, whether it's content distribution, editing, streaming companies, rendering, visual effects, and animation, great. And then again, just traditional HPC customers that are tired of dealing with the complexity of high performance compute. This boils down to some other verticals, things like oil and gas, right, where we're going to see a lot of different HPC use case. Backup and recovery, right? We've seen so much success in backup and recovery. There's still such an opportunity there. In Europe, they came out with new requirements. So even if you have a customer that supports Europe and the financial services, DORA is a requirement. You have to have the capability to do rapid recovery. Customers still struggle with that, right? And again, I think with AI and some of these other things, it's taken it a back burner. But rapid restore is still a tough problem to crack, right? Customers have things, legacy backup appliances like data domain, that are not built for rapid restore. We've seen other products come out. Example, Pure FlashBlade does not have advanced data reduction, so it becomes not cost effective. How do I build a backup environment that's both cost effective and has fast restore? There's no one else that tells a story like Vastnet, right? It's just a great entrance into your account. It's a great opportunity, by the way, as so much people are focusing on AI as a vast partner, to double down and go find some customers, especially that have a lot of data domains, or Isilon as a backup target. Big data, another one. There's so much focus on AI, but there are so many Hadoop environments and big data environments and data warehouses out in the world, Splunk, Elastic, right, where there's so much legacy tech debt in these environments. And we can provide such a better experience with not only just the world's best object platform, the most efficient, the most performant object platform, but with our database driving that efficiency to not need something like an Iceberg database on top of an object store to consolidate that stack down to a single platform. Lethal, right? And we're seeing customers take 90% space reduction from a legacy Hadoop data lake, bringing them onto the vast data platform. And again, you can lace in an AI story. You need to make space and power available for GPUs. So you need to consolidate all the legacy platforms around that to make it sustainable. But big data, there's just a multitude of use cases. And then, there's traditional enterprise infrastructure consolidation, right? We do have customers. We just announced Block, right? And again, we're not targeting the tier one, ultra low latency block world, but if you're looking for general purpose, hey, I just want, a repository that can support all sorts of different workloads, maybe tier one, tier zero, go somewhere else, but everything else I want to throw on a common platform that supports file and object, containers, virtual machines. VAST can be that platform, right? Ultra low latency is not our thing, but for many customers, that 1 to 2 millisecond response time that VAST is going to provide is more than enough for the majority of their block workload. So again, just driving more consolidation and efficiency. Okay. Here is just, this is obviously homemade by me, but I think I like to simplify things, like where to hunt, like what do I do? Like story sounds great. Where do we hunt? Again, AI, we care about. We are so confident that if someone mutters the word AI, whether they're a model builder, a CSP, or an enterprise that is trying to bring AI and try to figure out how do I, scale AI across my business, we are primed to attack. Right? Pay attention to the announcements we have around the Insight Engine at GTC, because this is really the story for AI in the enterprise. Don't forget that. We're going to talk about AI a lot. But again, big data, I think, is such a forgotten opportunity. And, these data lakes are out there. Customers are trying to figure out, like, hey, how does big data live in a world with AI? Well, a really good platform is to say, let's just modernize your big data environment. This will support traditional big data workflows, but at the same time, leverage that same platform for AI, right? And then finally, the Isilon Days is a step forward from the traditional legacy Isilon architecture and data domains, right? Top verticals we hit, top competitors, but no matter what, when you find GPUs or petabytes of capacity, this is the tool for it. And we really love to challenge our customers to think differently. My last slide here before I leave you guys, and Ross is going to take over in a second and talk about partner expectations in the coming year. But we're really looking at how we work with our partners across this whole landscape in a more strategic way. So at the top, we're building solutions with companies like NVIDIA and Commvault, right? I like to say NVIDIA is processing the data, Commvault's backing it up. We do have other partners in the backup and recovery space, but we're building some really cool stuff with Commvault these days. Then we have now a whole stable of OEMs, right? We're launching our partnership with Cisco and Lenovo right now. HPE is our first OEM. Supermicro is our first e-box provider. They can package these different solutions. Again, they're all bringing their own flavor and expertise. And now all of these different paths are available to our channel partners, right? So you can work traditionally with the vast Gemini licensing and our white box hardware you can buy from our OEMs. There's different ways to combine these and add your own flavor as our partner community. With AI, there's so much opportunity for application services, migration services, integration services, the financing that our customers need. So our goal for this year is to look across this pyramid and help each of you understand, what value we bring, what value our OEMs bring, and where you can add value in this chain to make our customers feel like they're getting the maximum potential and value from their purchases with VAST. So guys, again, appreciate being back with the channel today. Hopefully that was a helpful overview of my story, but I'm going to turn it over to Ross Cooper-Smith now to talk about the things that you can expect working with the channel and VAST Data this year.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, everybody. It's great to see so many people joining us on the webinar today. We're going to change tack slightly now. Let's talk about what do we bring to the table in 2025? What will you be seeing from VAST? And where is the opportunity going to be for you to work with us and you to drive revenue yourselves and benefit from this success? And I'm going to start by just doubling down on Phil's point. The partner program, and actually Rick mentioned this right at the start, the partner program at VAST is expanding. The VAST partner program doesn't simply mean channel partners. We have a wide array of partners across a wide range of segments of our business. We have partners in the supply chain. We have the contract manufacturers, the distributors, our channel partners, bringing the product to market. Joining that are the OEMs, the HPEs, and the Supermicros. We have a growing number of partners in the sales motion. We have the channel partners, the OSMs, the GSIs, the alliance partners that we've been working with for quite some time. But joining that now, we have 30 plus NVIDIA cloud service provider partners. We've got a number of ISV partners that are dedicated to the AI space, and I'm going to touch on those in just a second. We're rolling out an ever-growing professional services program. We now have global subcontractors working with us, delivering professional services. We're rolling these programs out across our contract manufacturers, our distributors. And for partners that are doing a high volume of sales and services, we're rolling out that training to those partners, allowing them to deliver the professional services on our behalf. But circling back the ISVs, you're going to start seeing new types of relationship from VAST, thanks to the work we're doing with NVIDIA. These are enabling new capabilities for customers, and ultimately it's in the channel where these all come together as a complete solution for our customers. And a lot of these new relationships are driven by our work in AI and our joint go-to-market with NVIDIA around the Insight Engine. So the Insight Engine is taking all of the components of the VAST Data Platform, allowing organizations to have a single store to bring in all of their data requirements, integrate cleanly into the NVIDIA NIMs to easily adopt AI agents and AI workloads, but also wrapping our unique security around that whole thing. So solving a lot of the problems around making AI accessible in the enterprise. But what we are also seeing, thanks to this innovation, are a number of NVIDIA AI service provider partners who have now started partnering with VAST as well. Up until the launch of the Insight Engine, these partners were delivering services online only. They were delivering services in the public clouds, in Azure, in Google, in Oracle, etc. They had no access to data sitting on site in enterprise customers' data centers. Private data is increasingly becoming a priority for large enterprises. They're realizing the value of data. They're realizing this data is the key to success with AI and seeing these new savings and possibilities. And now, thanks to the partnership with VAST, you have the ability to take these tools into your customers. And to give you an example of one of these, Protopia are essentially an AI security company. What their product is doing, they have a technology they call stained glass, which allows an organization to take their existing data that is securely maintained on site, but where that organization maybe don't have enough space or power in their data center to roll out NVIDIA GPUs and take advantage of AI. It allows these customers to take advantage of the cloud, working with the big hyperscalers or potentially working with some of VAST's customers and our NVIDIA NCP cloud provider partners. It allows customers and enterprises to take advantage of the GPUs that are readily available in the cloud and use those for processing their data securely. So Protopia will essentially encrypt and obfuscate the data before it ever leaves your data center. It will send that out securely to the cloud providers in order to run the training on kind of private models or public models, whatever that might be, and bring the results back on premise. And it's not until the results land back in your data center that that data is intelligible and can be utilized. So you can now deliver secure AI data pipelines into enterprise customers and take advantage of features like the vast data space to seamlessly extend that data center into the cloud and deliver hybrid AI. And it's the channel partners where a lot of these conversations with customers will happen. You're also seeing extensions in the amount of customer choices and OEM partnerships. Now, we've had a long-established relationship with Hewlett-Packard and with Supermicro, HPE with GreenLake for File as a full appliance model, Supermicro essentially acting as a hyperscale reseller, bundling VAST and Supermicro in their factory and shipping that out to hyperscale customers. All of these are delivering an effectively appliance experience to customers. VAST is a software company, but we do not want customers to suffer the pain of software defined. So all of these OEM relationships, it's the same quality product, it's the same quality amount of QA going into the certification, it's the same quality of support, where you've got a single support team instead of 4, 5, or 6 separate first-line support teams, as you will see with some software-defined solutions. What you're going to see this year is this program is going to be expanding rapidly. There's been an explosion of interest from the server manufacturers. It's forced our product management team to streamline the process for onboarding OEMs. We've got a new set of internal reference architectures we are sending out to these OEMs, and you're going to see an awful lot more OEMs available from VAST this year, working in partnership with us. And for you and for your customers, that just means more choice, more options for the customer, more options to work with partners that they are happy and familiar and comfortable with. And all of these are running the same data platform, the same software. There's compatibility across all these different platforms. What you're going to see being delivered from our side as well is improved support for channel partner sales. We know we need to improve our sales support content. If you follow our partner newsletter, our website, or LinkedIn announcements, you'll see there's been a huge uptick in the amount of content we're creating. As the business scales, as our growth keeps on accelerating, we are growing our internal teams, and there's a lot more content coming through. And our partner program has been struggling to keep up. It's been lagging behind. We'll be accelerating that this year. It's going to start with an acceleration of our partner webinars to help catch up with all that content and make sure you're all up to speed with where we are. We're going to be rebranding partner certifications. It's coming under the Vastronaut Certified banner. And that's going to be the overarching brand name for all of these sales, pre-sales, professional services certifications that are coming out. Pre-sales certification is launching very, very soon. And immediately following that is going to be an updated set of AI sales certifications, taking advantage of our leadership in AI to deliver that knowledge and training out to yourselves. And there's also a full refresh of competitive content coming out. There's been a lot of changes in that landscape that is also being worked on right now, and that will be coming out to you later in the year. And one other area we've been hearing loud and clear from our channel partners is you want more customer stories, more win stories, more references. We're going to do a better job of sharing these with yourselves, with your sales teams, with your SEs. You can expect these to become a regular part of our newsletters and webinars going forward. And in case any of you haven't seen this, there is also now integration of the Cosmos community with our partner program. One of the first initiatives there is creating a lab environment where partners or prospects can try VAST for themselves. It's as simple as scanning the QR code and you get access straight into a system and can start gaining familiarity with the platform. That is it from me. We have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to invite everyone else back onto the stage. And I believe it is time for Q&A.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. There were a few questions that came in that we can go through, and feel free to put additional questions that come up in the Q&A. And if we get to them by the end of this session, we'll be sure to follow up with you guys following this webinar. The first question, Rick, is over to you. Can you let the team know, when is VAST getting a true partner program?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks. As I said at the beginning of the call, we're going to take a step back and say, what does a partner program look like for a company like VAST? We know we have the grid of all of the different things that are available in your traditional channel model and partnering model, and we want to make sure that we're looking at how does that work and what are the most important things for VAST. For example, the disparity of the size of the transactions we have make it very difficult to say, to put together, static pricing agreements or MDF programs, things like that. On the other hand, we know that we have multiple pathways that customers can go through to get to the customer. We know that customers have different buying. From what I'm used to, of spending all my time that I did at my previous employer, we were really selling into the data center. Here, we're selling into a very different audience, as well as the IT, the infrastructure buyer. And so we're just going to take a step back. And the answer is we will be coming out with a true partner program. I don't have a timeline for it yet, as soon as possible. But we do want to take a look back, and I'd really encourage everybody out there to say, hey, these are the things that we see are changing in the market. These are things that are different that we think if VAST considered these, it would really help to accelerate the business between VAST and us, that partner. So I'm really soliciting ideas from you as well before we just go out and put something out into the market.
Great. Thanks, Rick. One other question came in, and Ross, I'm going to send this one over to you. Where is the break-even point in terms of total size of database where the VAST data platform solution becomes cost-effective?
Okay, sure. So the first answer to this one is it depends. In certain cases, if it's a pure database opportunity, you would look to qualify this in the same way you would a standard data store traditional storage opportunity. The sweet spot is typically going to be 200 terabytes or above as the entry level for VAST. Once you're getting into the kind of half petabyte space, then you're really in the area where VAST is beginning to excel and really step into clean air away from all the competition. But the reality is most organizations will have a certain amount of data in their database, and they will also have a lot of other capacity within the estate as well. And you have to bear in mind that there is no separate licensing for database. This is not a separate product you're buying separately. If you've got a customer that's got a few hundred terabytes of regular file and object storage, and they've got a kind of 50 terabyte analytical database, that is absolutely a conversation around consolidation, efficiency, cost savings, power savings. And we are seeing some genuinely huge database opportunities as well. We're short of time, but very quickly, I used to work with one of the big resellers, retail organizations here in the UK. Their primary estate was huge, 0.5 petabyte of all flash for 5,000 VMs. Their data lake is 100 times that. It's 50 petabytes. You will see in some of these organizations, the database opportunity, it may be a separate team to standard IT, but that opportunity can eclipse the amount of capacity in the enterprise side of the business.
Great. Thanks, Ross. I know we're at time, and I want to wrap up here. Thank you all for joining us today. There were a few questions that popped in regards to sharing QR codes for the lab space within Cosmos, slide decks and stuff like that. There are some available links in the docs section over on the right. So feel free to stay on and grab some of those, and then keep an eye out tomorrow for an email from our marketing team where we'll share the on-demand session where you can rewatch this or view the slides. You can also access them by end of day today on the partner portal. Thank you all for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us, and looking forward to joining you all again in March.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.